With that, the man, the legend, Sandy Munro.
You have to be a Tesla executive to take your pants off. I guess that's how it works.
Is that Elon's next? You're good.
Okay, great.
Don't worry about it. I asked Ryan to come up on stage in case I had the questions to ask, which I don't
interview
think I
people
will.
for a living, so I can chip in where necessary.
Good.
Sandy's been on my podcast, in fact, a couple of years ago when you were just launching the YouTube channels. Happy to have you on. We talked Cybertruck, a little roadster in there as well.
We did, and I'm still a big fan. I have 5 of them on order, or actually, the company has 5 on order. One of
How many of them will stay intact, and how many of them will be dissected?
Mine will stay intact. I don't know what the rest are, but mine will definitely be staying intact, and I'll have all the spare parts I need.
So I want to start off for the 3 people in the room who don't know who you are.
Oh, really?
Let's just give the quick 2-minute or 2-hour bio.
Oh no,
There's a lot to talk about.
Nope, I already have the bio queued up, and rather than have a consultant tell you something, I'm going to have Elon Musk tell you something. You have to, here we go. Almost there.
Yeah, actually, this partly comes from the Model 3, which is actually a fantastic car in many ways, but we were rightly criticized for an inefficient design for the front and rear body. Like Sandy Munro, who I think is really has excellent from an engineering standpoint and really a very fair critic, he pistol whipped us for the design of the battery.
He ripped it apart and piece by piece told you why you suck.
Yeah,
and then he did the why and told you why you were awesome.
Yeah, he took it apart and told us exactly why we sucked, and he was correct. And then and I was like, well, that's pretty embarrassing. So he was complimentary of other parts of the car, of body design,
and that just cut it a little bit too short, because right after that he says, and that's the reason we
And
went
now it's almost there.
to the
Actually, this
what do you
body
call it, to the castings. So anyway, there you go. So that's my introduction. From now on, I never screw with anything else. I just put that up, and everybody says, "Oh, that's pretty good. Okay, fine."
But I think it would be fair to say that you are, in the same way that Andrew possibly has more drag races than anybody else in the world, you are arguably the world authority on manufacturing, materials, processes in automotive and aerospace.
I wouldn't say I'm the only one, but I do know quite a bit about manufacturing. When Boeing decided to do something called Yellowstone, which turned out to be the 787, there were 5 people on the program. I was one, Dan McCarthy, one of my guys, was one, and Alan Mullally was one, and then the other 2 guys, they started out and then they were disbanded or something, and 2 other people came and took their place. So I was brought in because of the carbon fiber background that we had and the manufacturing techniques, and they wanted to try and do what they could do to make it so that the aircraft would be able to be put together as fast as a car. And in automotive, we've had a number of successes, leading the charge for the Cooper, Mini Cooper, a variety of different cars.
And remind us who Alan Mullally is?
Alan Mullally, he was the head guy on the 787, Boeing 787. He also was the president and CEO of Ford. He's the one who turned it around. Ford did not go bankrupt. I don't know if you're aware of that, but General Motors went bankrupt. Chrysler, Fiat, everybody else went bankrupt. But he steered the company in the right direction, and Ford Motor Company in the right direction. And quite frankly, he did hire us, and we did change a lot of things in his cars to make them so that They were less costly, easier to put together, and the quality had to go up a lot. In a lot of the different car companies, they say things like, "Oh, why should we hire you? We got plenty of engineers." Well, the numbers, that's good, but Munro kind of hires only the best, and that's why we don't get every job, because we're a little more expensive than everybody else. But that's because I pay a lot more for the talent that we need and want at Munro & Associates and for our customers.
So your Rolodex is pretty extensive, and you know the movers and shakers in the industry.
I know quite a few, yeah. Yeah.
So obviously we're at TeslaCon Florida. What was your introduction to Tesla? When did you first become aware of them?
I became aware of them when somebody came in and said, "Hey, we want you to benchmark a Model S." And I brought it in, I looked at it, and I said, "Wow, what do you plan to do with the data that we're going to develop for you? Because it's going to cost you about $1.2 million or something like that. What are you going to do with the data?" "Well, we want to find all the good things on here." And I said, "You're not going to be happy with the report, because this is not a very well-built car, and it's really low volume, and on and on and on, and I don't think you're going to be happy. So rather than steal $1.2 million off of a good customer, we let it go." The next thing that happened was one of our competitors. They came up and they said, "Hey, we've got a Model X, and we've taken it all apart, and we want you to, take a few days to figure out how much redesign could be done to bring the price down, or the cost down, and improve the quality and whatnot." We spent 3 weeks. That cost a lot of money. They tore everything down, so that saves us a lot of time. And we came back with reams of things that they could do differently. And then the next thing was the Model 3. And we actually bought that because one of our customers, it doesn't matter, Audi said, "Get a hold of one of those cars, we'll pay you double for the car, and then we'll fly it from Detroit to Germany." And so we said, "Well, okay, fine, it sounds like a great idea." So we bought the car, brought it in, and Audi said, "Oh, thank you very much, we are not needing it anymore, good luck." And so we had a Tesla Model 3, so we decided to take it to pieces, and that's when John McElroy came over and, "Sandy, Sandy, why'd you buy that piece of shit?" And I said, "Well, I had no choice," and I told him the Audi story. He said, "Wow, how do you stay in business?" So then we started taking, gaps were bad, the doors didn't really work really well, the paint job was horrific, and that's where I started. And then once we got past that, and we started getting into, and by the way, as soon as that happened, the Tesla fans said they were going to kill me. Yeah. And then we got into the electronics and whatnot, and we started looking at everything that was covered up by that incredibly bad skin, and we had lots of good things to say. And then the short sellers wanted to kill me. So I had the Tesla fans and the short sellers wanting to have me executed. In fact, this is no baloney, we had to bring in the FBI because we have secret status at Munro for Department of Defense stuff, and we had the local police. It was very exciting there for a while. When somebody says they're going to blow your factory up, you got to take precautions. So that was really the start down the path. And then after we got about 2/3 down the pike, that's when I made the corporate decision to abandon ship on ice. So we used to do a lot of engines, transmissions, ice vehicles, and now we do only EVs. We don't want any ice work at all. And by the way, that was a moral decision to do that. I'm really happy that we made that decision. It's worked out good for us, and I think that everybody's put on the planet for a couple of reasons. One of them is to do a better job at being a steward for the planet. So I'm not Elon Musk, but I'm doing my part.
So, from your unique perspective, then, who's getting it right besides Tesla in the EV space? From your unique point of view, is anyone getting it right yet?
Well, I'm not gonna throw too many people under the bus. Shit. I mean,
I did say who's getting it right.
people are videoing this thing. Anyhow, I will tell you that Rivian. I bought one of their cars, their trucks. I'm very, very happy with it. They don't pay me to say anything like this, so I think Rivian is in a good place. I think that there's a whole new market that's sitting out there that hasn't been tapped yet. One is outside, Arcimoto. The other one is Aptera. Those two vehicles, three-wheel vehicles, are needed because the average number of people in any vehicle, any car, or SUV, or even truck, pickup truck or whatever, is 1.2, 1.5, depending on who makes the surveys. So why we've got, when we can get something like the Aptera, which is solar, and you can drive for 1,000 miles between charges, why wouldn't I put that on my list? And then there's the other, and that, if you're south of the Mason-Dixon line, this is a car you should have in your driveway right next to your Tesla. And then the next one is Arcimoto. It's a perfect delivery vehicle. I mean, for stuff like that, pizzas and whatnot. It's a fun vehicle to drive. It's like a motorcycle and a whole lot safer. So I see those as up and coming, and I think that they're really going to do a good job. As far as the normal guys that you'd expect to see, the old guard, as it were, only Ford. That's it. I don't. Geely owns Volvo. Okay, Volvo's got a lot of good cars because they were designed and they're being run by the Chinese. BYD is going to come in and kick everybody's ass here in North America. They're going to probably own about 30% of the market share, or at least the Chinese will order about 30% of the market share when they start bringing their products in. And you saw that chart that came up a little while ago, and it said we have no resources here. Okay, these clowns can say, we're going to build a factory, we're going to build a battery factory right here in the US of A. Okay, all the stuff that costs the money is coming from China. And the reason we don't have any of that would be, there's two things. What's that? Permitting. Well, that's too far down the road. You got to go up a lot higher. Government. There you go. Number one on the government thing. Government has basically clipped us off completely from the resources we need in order to make this happen. Do you know that there's a cobalt mine that's being opened, or they're trying to open it right now in the United States? And do you know that in Canada, in Ontario, there's a town called Cobalt? Why do you think they named it that? Now, here's something that blew my mind when I just found this out about 2 weeks ago. It's a silver town. They were plagued by the cobalt that was stuck in the silver. They separated it and put it in a big mountain. There's a big hill. Oh well, yeah, but we don't want to. That might be something we have to look at. The government again. We'll need to investigate that. Well, really? And then lithium. Okay, so some of you know I've mentioned this before. Munro is working on two projects. They're mobile nuclear reactors. Now, it's not uranium, we're not using that. We're using something called thorium. Guess where the biggest area of thorium is? US and Canada. That great big giant area between, if you draw an oval, you start in Alberta, you go through Saskatchewan, you go through Manitoba, you come down on the North Dakota, swing through Wyoming and and whatever that guy just phoned. Anyways, you pick that area. Not Washington, East Oregon. Montana. Okay, there you go. That's where it is. And you know what the problem is there for mining thorium? Well, the lithium gets in the way. You think I'm kidding, don't you? You know why we don't do anything there? We may danger the lives of some lizards. And I turned this thing off, and I have no idea why it's doing what it's doing, but we'll just do that a little harder. So anyways, yeah, and the irony, I mean, California, they don't have any electricity. They go, oh, we haven't got enough electricity. Yeah, well, the high desert's got plenty of sunshine. Oh, we can't do that. Well, why would that be? Well, you may not know this, but there's an invasive species called the kangaroo rat, and it lives in the desert. And if we put those great big solar collectors up there, what will happen to those kangaroo rats? Do I give a shit? I mean, I have a rat trap outside my house. There's something terribly wrong. Our priorities have been somehow misaligned with the good of the nation. It's the good of the nation that I'm looking for. I don't care about rats or lizards. Sorry.
Tell us how you really feel, Sandy.
I'm holding back.
Let's get Sandy a drink or two up here.
Yeah, that's what I really need.
No,
Yeah. A couple of pops.
Sandy and alcohol is not a good mix.
Yeah.
All right, so there's one question I've always wanted to ask you, which I don't think you've covered that much in the videos that you've done. So you've done the teardowns, you've talked about the manufacturing process. I'm sure we'll talk again about giga castings and things like that. I have a very early Model S, 2012 Model S, that I always joke was hand-built by marketing. I mean, this thing, as you described, every single nut and bolt is a different size. It's just crazy. Tesla's been very innovative in the rapidity of which they make changes on the line. I've never heard a discussion about what that does for serviceability, right? Because there's design for manufacturing and there's design for service, and those two things aren't necessarily the same thing. So do you want to talk about the consequences?
Yeah, sure. Serviceability. You can either have serviceability or reliability. Pick one. You can't have both. If I make it so that it's reliable, it's probably going to be a bugger to service. And the reason for that is because I want reliability, which is going to give me long life. Now, Tesla, I equate Tesla to basically engineering at the speed of thought. They move faster, 10, 20, 100 times faster than any company I've ever seen. We can't believe how many changes that they've made in 2 years on the Model Y. Think on it. I mean, we talked about, you mentioned the castings. When I made the comments about the Model Y or the Model 3, they were already into the Model Y, and then the Model Y turned from whatever they had to 2 castings in the back. And then, a year and a half basically later, they're producing the big casting in the front, the big casting in the back, and they've got 12 of those. Hydra is very close to Munro, and Hydra is the guys that make the big giant presses, and Hydra told me that there's 12 more 8,000-ton presses, which nobody on the planet even knew you could make, and they're going someplace in North America because they can't say Tesla. They're not allowed to say Tesla. And then I went to look at the guys that are doing the molds, also in Italy. And some of you know I was a toolmaker before I was an engineer. And I worked on lots of molds and dies. And I looked at their molds, and I never saw anything like them. And they say, we call them puzzle molds. And instead of getting maybe, I don't know, maybe 40,000 shots before you have to swap the molds for polishing and whatnot, they can get like 100,000 of these things shot in these molds. And the reason for that is because they breathe a little bit. Now, I don't want to there's probably other questions come down the pike, but this speed that they can move, moving from the from the super bottle to the octo valve. Holy mackerel! Nobody had ever thought of anything like what we saw in the octo valve, or the super bottle, and then the next product that comes out, the Model Y that came out, they abandoned it. I mean, people were looking at the other, I don't know how we can do that, and boom, they were already into the octo valve heating and cooling system for the car. These guys move faster than everybody. No one moves as fast as Tesla, nobody. And when they come out, the products may have a couple of hiccups for a month or two, but they jump on it and fix things much faster. And the reason for that is they got money. Nobody else has got any money. Nobody else. Nobody. Zero. Well, let me rephrase that. Nobody's got as much money as Tesla has. Actually, can you put up that slide, the one that talks about the Altman Z-score? Not that one. I've never seen it. Yeah, go down. There you go. Okay, so you know all those other things out there, Moody and Bloomberg and all that? It's all garbage. I don't know how anybody could get sucked in using that shit. This is what you want. That thing right there. The Altman Z-score tells you exactly where people are. So look at that one line and see what it says. Oh, those are bad boys. They're below the line. That means that they're on the verge of bankruptcy. They haven't got any money. Why in the world do you think that VW sold off Porsche? They got no cash. And who do you think is going to be next to get sold off? Audi. There's one you don't want to. They got the biggest battery and the worst range. I mean, it's like, who's in charge of that one? But you look down there and you can see that there's only maybe a couple of guys that have got enough to get into the gray zone. But look at Tesla on the bottom. Their line goes on forever. They got tons of money. They can afford to spend on new product development. They can afford to spend on anything they really want. And the reason for that is because, do we have any people from Harvard here? Don't put your hands up. Just, okay. Don't do that. Because after I say what I'm going to say, you're probably not going to like me, and you're not going to want to have any. Harvard has given us a lot of real gems. Number one on the hit parade. Well, you really need to outsource. Really? Does Tesla outsource? No. Vertical integration. I just got back from Vietnam to go and look at VinFast, and we were talking about cars that are going to make it. That car will make it. It's going to be made right down the road here in North Carolina, and you're going to like it. I was really impressed. Blown away impressed. How much money have they got? Trillion. They got $1 trillion. That's a lot of money. That's like a whole government all by itself. And they do all kinds of stuff. Vin Group is huge. Absolutely huge. They're going to come in and they're going to be kicking a lot of tail. What's the number one thing that they said as soon as they found out that I was in the crowd, was sitting in the audience? They said, and this is for Sandy Munro, we are vertically integrated. We don't trust suppliers. Obviously, they haven't had a Harvard guy come down and let them know. So, I'm telling you right now, Elon and I have a lot of things in common. My biggest peeve, the thing that I think is the worst thing that can happen to a car company, is to take an engineer and give him an MBA. It takes a cheapskate and you makes him even cheaper. And that's not the way you want to do things if you're going to have a good car company. So that's enough. Everybody's quiet now. I don't make any noise after that one. Yeah.
Sandy, I want to ask you about your YouTube channel, Munro Live. I mean, that's something that's launched in the last year or two here. What has going on YouTube done for the business, and also just how have you found? Do you enjoy doing that?
Okay, so we were basically when I don't even know what is. Okay, so 3 days before the governor of Michigan shut down the state, our Model Y arrived. I didn't
This
have
is for
enough money to
COVID.
pay for it because Chrysler was our biggest customer and they hadn't paid us. But they were negotiating a $7 million contract that we were going to get involved with and blah, blah, blah. That didn't happen. What am I going to do when the government shuts me down? So we had a couple of rushed meetings and whatnot with me and everybody that was in the company. And we decided that we were going to take the car apart and we were going to dole it out to different people and they were going to take it home. They would, different engineers, and they were going to take it home, analyze it, because they have tools at home as well as at work. They were going to analyze the product and then bring it back. And they'd bring back the pieces and bring back their reports, and then we're going to try and sell a report. Well, when we did that, Corey Steuben, our new president, he said, well, we should do YouTube. And I said, what the is that? And he showed me, and I said, who the hell's going to watch this? And then he said, and you're going to be the star. And I said, I don't like giving speeches. And I don't know. And he said, okay, we're on. And so, for you old guys out there, do you remember Howdy Doody? Hi, boys and girls, what time is it? It's Howdy Doody time. And I said that as a joke, and it turned out to be, everybody knows me as hi, boys and girls. In fact, somewhere around here, there's guys handing out a little card that says, hi, boys and girls. That's not, I didn't put that out. Somebody else has come up with it, and yeah, I think it's hilarious. But that's kind of like how it got started. Now, I mean, some of the, Jim Farley, who's the president and CEO of Ford Motor Company, hand-delivered our F-150 Lightning. That wouldn't have been something I was expecting. I didn't expect any of this stuff at all, and it's humbling. It really is. I really feel I have no clue how I got here. It really doesn't.
So how's it? You're making these contracts with automotive companies to because they want your reports. Has it had a positive effect on your business, this YouTube presence?
Oh yeah, yeah. Our business has gone up significantly, but again, okay. So I don't have an MBA, so I really don't know anything about business. I've kind of like steered away from certain car companies that have asked us to help them, and I'm not interested. The most notable one, I guess, would have been VW, because I was ready to go in with them until I got a hold of an ID4. And I said I wasn't going to throw anybody on the bus, and I guess I just did. But, so I don't recommend that car at all. And they have, how many people here have had a Tesla update in the last 6 months?
Everybody, everyone, literally everyone.
Okay, how about the last 3 months? How about the last month? How about the last 2 minutes? Yeah. Okay. The ID4 has had 0 since its introduction. Okay, you saw that Volkswagen is selling more cars than everybody else? No, they're not. They're building more, but they're not selling more. They have 240 days of inventory. That doesn't sound good to me. Could be wrong.
By contrast, Tesla has, what, 4 days of inventory or something like that?
No,
8?
they have virtually...
Single digit.
Okay, so Ford has backlog, Tesla has backlog, Rivian has backlog. Everybody who's making an EV, even the Lucid's got tons of backlog. They can't get them out the door fast enough, and yet somebody's got a lot of them, and that's why, like I said, they had to sell Porsche, And I guarantee you that Audi's not too far behind. And Audi is not. It came out with a car for sure. It has the biggest battery and the worst range, and it has the worst mileage according to the EPA. So something's wrong there. I don't know what happened to German engineering. Guy in charge of Tesla's engineering is German. He seems to be doing okay. Maybe they got a problem with some of the other guys there. I don't know. Yeah. And then they fired Dietz, which that was it. As soon as they did that, I was done. I don't. That guy. That's the only guy that I thought of all the big car companies. He's the one that I hung my hat on, and now it's Jim Farley that looks like he's the rising star, and he's like all the other ICE companies having a hell of a time trying to turn the company around. So yeah, this is a really interesting time. This is like the turn of the century, the 1900s, when you went from steam and you went from kerosene lamps and wheel-borne corsets and stuff like that, and all of a sudden the new era came, and you got electric light bulbs, and you got cars that could take the place of horses, and on and on and on. It's amazing. This is the most exciting time that the world has seen since 1900.
So we just had the Q3 earnings call. Who listened to the Q3 earnings call? A lot of people. Okay, we'll talk about that a little bit later with Warren. But one of the things that the Tesla team said on the call was talking about their next generation platform, and they stated on the earnings call that they were working towards a platform that was essentially half the cost of the Model 3 platform. Now, they didn't say what they were going to charge people for it, but they said cost-wise, it was half the cost. Do you see anything that's going to stop them achieving that goal?
No. What can I say? What can I say? I've taken apart a Model 3. I know where you can take a lot of cost out. I know where you can take a lot of weight out. I know what you can do from a battery standpoint. Okay, it's not going to be a rocket ship like the rest of the Tesla vehicles, but you know what? It's going to get somebody from here to there. And that $24,000 vehicle is yes, possible. 100% possible.
So Tesla arguably has had a big advantage over the legacy automakers in that they are still building brand new factories and can kit them out exactly as they want. Now, as they move to things like the gigacasting, clearly if they're already in a manufacturing phase, they've got replacement costs to do that. Now, they've got a very big balance sheet, but from what you've seen, I saw you at Giga Texas, how big of a change are they going to have to make in the factories themselves to be able to drive these cost reductions? Are they going to be throwing away hydro presses, or what are they, you know?
So you meant battery. You said battery, but I'm sure you meant the car.
Yeah.
But the battery is going to be a change as well. It's going to be at least LFP, lithium iron phosphate. These batteries don't have, so they have the same amount of energy, but they don't have the same amount of power. So they can't discharge as quickly as what your 2170s or your 4680s can do. Okay, they discharge at a different rate, but most people don't drive like a maniac. I drive quick, but most people don't drive like I drive. Most people want to get from point A to point B alive, and that's strange as it may seem. So anyways, the deal is, if I have LFP, I will have the same as what it would be like driving a normal ICE vehicle. And it might be a little quicker if you have a sport mode or something like that on, but at the end of the day, it's not going to be a Model Y, a Model 3, and certainly not an S. But it's going to get people from here to there, and it's going to be safe. And I'm only guessing, but my guess is that the lower part of the body will be probably two castings. It'll be a front and a rear that'll be joined somewhere on the longitudinals. And the reason that I'm guessing that is because there's a 9,000 ton molding machine, and it's destined for somewhere in North America. It's being built right now. I looked at it, or looked at the bits and pieces. So, and nobody at Hydra or what's the name of I've forgotten the name of the tooling company, but anyway, neither one of them wanted to talk about what they were working on next. But they had gigantic shoes. The thing that the mold fits on is called a shoe. Gigantic shoes sitting there, and this doesn't take a rocket science to figure out. I mean, this could be uber inexpensive. So when you look at this, those big castings, they have a bigger piece cost, slightly more piece cost. However, their total accounted cost drops like a rock. And you get the added benefit of when you have those castings, I don't want to, okay, so you're not engineers, so I'm going to try and put this across. If you have a casting normally, using pretty much any kind of technique, what winds up happening is you get induced stresses. It's because the molten material moves in, and it's moving in fairly slowly, and as it's moving, it's cooling in some places and it's still hot in others. And that gives you induced stresses, among other things, hydrogen brittlement and all kinds of other stuff. And if you machine it, or if you shake it, then all of a sudden you get movement. If you have stampings, you stamp it, you put it on a gauge, it looks fine. You put it in a box, you ship it away, it gets welded up, and now it's not fine. Because induced stress, it wants to relax. It wants to move to a new location. Well, the castings that Elon Musk has got, let me ask you a question. You've probably seen pictures of the gigantic castings. How long do you think it takes to fill the mold? In the blink of an eye, that's pretty good. It's less than 1 second, okay? Less than a second to throw 120 pounds into molten material into a mold. What does that do? Well, the material is moving so fast that there is no induced stress. It sits there for about 20 or 30 seconds, then the mold opens, and guess what? When that thing falls down, it will never move, never. It's rock solid, it will never move. So you take that and you put it into a car. What does that do for you? Well, the doors are always going to be in the right place. The hood and the deck lid the hood, the deck lid, the hatch, whatever you've got, it'll be open and closed perfectly. I get 5 good holes. That's what I really look for in a car, 5 good holes. And that is exactly what'll get you to the $24,000 car, because there'll be no online rework. Every part will fit one to the other, and the faster they get to that type of a product, the more likelihood we're all going to be happy campers with a $24,000 vehicle that'll kick the daylights from a quality and safety aspect, kick the daylights out of things that are going to be probably twice the price.
Well, let's talk about Tesla's next car. When I was speaking earlier, we had a show of hands, and most of the room had Cybertrucks reserved. So, the very unique process is what Tesla is promising to build this thing. You've talked on your channel about how much money not having a paint shop for the body will save. Can you give your just overarching perspective on the Cybertruck from a cost perspective and what that's going to allow Tesla to do relative to the competition in the EV pickup truck market?
Okay, so first off, I don't really look at the Cybertruck as a pickup truck. Okay, the Lightning, boom, there's no question about it. But the Rivian is like some kind of a sport truck. It's not the truck I'd want for my factory. And I think that the Cybertruck is going to be built for somebody like myself, that's an outdoors person, that wants to go hunting, that wants to use that truck as their daily ride as well. They want something rugged and big. And I don't see that truck being picked up by construction workers and things like that. It doesn't make any sense. To me, that truck will kick the daylights out of a market that we don't even have right now. And that's a fact. It's got its own unique market. And any car that can come out and have its own unique market will basically dominate it forever. unless they do something stupid. I think that Tesla is going to make a shitload of money on that car. Or truck, I should say. I think that it's an exoskeleton. I've been trying to talk. So for 15 years, I had a cast frame sitting on my floor, and I tried to talk other OEMs from Europe, from Japan, from China, and from obviously North America into. Nobody went for it. No, you can't do that. No, that won't work. No, we've got big stamping machines. 15 years and nobody picked up on it. And then Tesla criticized them and said, you got 120 parts, there should be one. And the next thing you know, they made the change. How they do things and how everybody else does them, there's no comparison. So I think that the Cybertruck, when it comes out, it's going to have the big castings, just like the other guys have got. The Model Y has got right now, and I believe that the Model 3 eventually will go in the same direction. They'll get rid of the stamping lines that they've got. They'll sell them to the big three or somebody like that, and they'll have a lot more space. And if anything, the Fremont plant needs is more space. So by getting rid of those old stamping products and whatnot, that'll help out. The Cybertruck is going to make them a tremendous amount of more money. And that thing you just saw, that Altman Z-score, they're going to have another trail that's going to go into infinity as to how much they're worth and how much money they can spend on new product development.
So I theorized earlier, I said I'm a DeLorean owner from a while back. It seemed to me like nobody's done a stainless steel car because it costs too much material-wise and it lasts too long. Would you agree with that? And that's why we're only now seeing Tesla do it with this tough, rugged Cybertruck?
Yeah, well, I actually worked on the DeLorean. I didn't work on the stainless steel part of it. I actually worked on the doors, which if you tried to roll a window down and open the door at the same time, a lot of bad things happen. But anyway, but I do know that they had an awful lot of problems because they used a very thin foil on the stainless steel. It was backed up by something else. I'm not
fiberglass.
Sure. Fiberglass, yeah. That's not going to be happening with the Cybertruck. It's going to be an exoskeleton made out of probably something around I don't know. I don't want to guess, but my gut tells me if it's truly an exoskeleton, it's going to be like 12 gauge, like about 1/8 of an inch thick. When you bend that, it doesn't move. It's going to stay right where it was. And I believe that everything on there is like straight lines and whatnot. It should be easy peasy to bend that thing up and weld it together. And I believe that everybody's going to be pretty excited when you get that truck. You'll never have to paint it. You never have to wash it. Like you said, most of the time you sit it out in the rain and it's going to look just as good as if you went through an expensive car wash. Stainless steel's got a lot of great capabilities and qualities to it, so I think it's going to be a brilliant car. Yeah.
Okay, we got about 10 minutes left or so let's open it up to the audience. Emiliano is the first one, hand straight up, and then Mr. Cook will give it to you.
Hi, Sandy. You mentioned everything that Tesla is doing in regards to get less cost for themselves or for us. And you also mentioned that by 2030, 1/3 of the cars in the market will probably be Chinese. So what do you think the Chinese will bring to America? Is going to be a cheaper or a lower quality car to get on the price point that everybody be able to afford? What do you think is it that they are bringing for 2030?
So I can tell you right now, because I've worked on a lot of the cars that are going to be coming in from China. These are not poor quality cars. I have one of the cars that we have at the office is a Chinese vehicle. It's not one of the ones that I worked on, but I worked with BYD. I worked with BJ, Beijing Automotive EV Group. I worked with them. Their cars, the Neo, the Geely cars. I mean, I would do workshops that had 500 people in a tiered audience learning how to use our techniques, and we only worked on electric vehicles. These guys have had a lot longer to work on electric vehicles than the guys here in North America or Europe. In fact, most of them poo-pooed the idea, the Europeans and the Americans poo-pooed the idea of having an electric vehicle. After all, we don't need it. Actually, it doesn't make us any money. That's kind of like what they looked at. All these other guys, they've been working their tails off with new chemistries that are less expensive, with new designs for products that are less expensive. Expense doesn't mean cheap. Just because I make something that's less costly doesn't necessarily mean it's bad quality. As a matter of fact, if you add more things, if you add more bolts and nuts and whatnot, actually the quality goes down. So what you're going to keep once everybody figures out that, you know, if you don't let Chinese cars into the United States, you won't get lithium, you won't get cobalt, you won't get nickel, you won't get anything. You won't be, these battery plants, they may be done in 2 years, but if they can't get the raw materials, all the air is just a big warehouse full of a bunch of scrap metal. And that's a fact. So that's going to force Biden or whoever's in power to say, okay, well, you can bring your cars in, but we need this other stuff until we can. It's going to take 7 years. It takes 7 years from the time that the government says you can kill a lizard and dig here, till the time that you can get lithium. Okay, 7 years. That's fast too. That's Chinese fast. I don't know how long it'll take with you know, some government inspector getting in the way of things. But I'm telling you what, we've painted ourselves into a corner. This isn't probably the most popular thing to say, but I think that there are two leaders in the world that have guaranteed EVs are going to take over everything. One is Biden. And what's the reason for that? He shut down the Keystone Project. Perfect. Now we can't get oil except from the guys in Saudi Arabia, and they are going to give us another oil shortage just like they gave in the 70s and early 80s. And two, Putin. What a guy. He shut down all the oil and gas to the guys in Europe and invaded a little dinky ass country that he had no business entering into. These two people will be remembered in history as the two most prominent leaders to make EVs happen. Hard to believe. Hard to believe.
Okay, hey Sandy, thanks for being here. Everybody, I'm Chuck Cook from Jacksonville, Florida. So, the best part is no part. Elon's philosophy on removing parts until you can't remove anymore, and I think in the SpaceX world, he even said sometimes you got to remove enough and then realize you need to put some of them back in. With the recent removal of ultrasonic sensors, and previous to that, the low definition radar that's been removed in favor of Tesla Vision, do you think we've maybe, without an obvious how they're going to solve it, you know, for getting in and out of garages and, you know, Summon and some of the other features that need it, do you think they've gone too far? Or do you think they got something under the hood that we just don't know about yet with regards to removing these sensors?
Okay, so I agree a lot with what Tesla's done. I think you can probably run cameras and make it work, but it's not my favorite at all. It doesn't even come close. I work on a lot of things that really have to work all by themselves in any kind of weather. So I'm a big fan of FLIR, forward-looking infrared. It comes in color. I can see the difference between a guy with a blue shirt on and a red shirt. I want that. If Tesla does anything, I'm hoping that they'll put forward-looking infrared FLIR in the front of the front and back of the cars, because then you can determine anything. I can tell the difference between a bird and a bat. That's a fact. I can drive through the rain or the snow or whatever, because it doesn't care about that stuff. It looks right through it. That's what I'd like to see everybody go with, but it costs more money. And I don't know enough about the profitability pictures for all these different guys, but I know that if I was going to design a self-driving vehicle, it would have FLIR and cameras. That's what I would do. I can't really comment because I don't know enough about what happened when they removed. I'm sure they did all the testing, but I don't know what happened when you removed the radar, and I think LiDAR is a joke. So.
Quick question, Sandy. What's your guess as to the fall of the ICE industry? I mean, do you think that 2026, 2027, the big players, Ford, GM, will just collapse because they just can't come up with EVs fast enough?
I think that my prediction initially was 2030 for 50-50. Okay, the tipping point for EVs and ICE vehicles was supposed to be then. I've moved it up a bit to 2028. I think that there will be survivors, but they'll be a whole lot smaller. I think that Ford will survive. I think that Volkswagen and GM, if they survive, will be a shadow of their former self, and they're going to have to divest a whole lot in a hurry. I don't know what those characters are going to do, but they're in deep trouble. You saw what happened to Fiat. They've fallen off the table. Nobody wants them. Stellantis, the new company, which is Fiat and PSA, I believe that they're going to need money. And they need money. They're going to have to sell something off. And the something they're going to probably sell off is Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep. And when they sell that off, I'll buy stock. And then I'll buy enough stock that I will have a word. I will have a word on their board or something. I'd like to see Chrysler survive, and it will never survive under Stellantis. Never. None of these clowns are going to get out of their own way, let alone be able to dominate the marketplace in the future. So you're going to see a lot of names that you used to know get a whole lot smaller. Toyota, Honda, I forgot, the shining star. Hyundai and Kia. Who'd have guessed? Who'd have guessed that those guys are now in second place? It's not my first microphone. So, who'd have guessed that they were in second place as far as selling product and having customer acceptance? This is an amazing time. Like I said, big names that used to be in the 1800s, the 1890s and whatnot, they vanished completely when 1910 showed up. It's amazing. We're in that exact same situation. We're going to see a lot of giants fall, and a lot of midgets suddenly become 18 feet tall. There's a lot of big changes that are going to happen.
Olaf from Orlando here. Two questions about the Cybertruck. If it pans out, but it looks like it's going to be, that it's with all the benefits of the longevity and the low production cost and no paint and things like that, do you see a reason that not all cars in the future will be mimicking that, not only from Tesla but from other manufacturers too? And my second question on the Cybertruck is, how do you create the crash structure in the front when you have such a stiff exoskeleton and something that doesn't slice up pedestrians if you crash into them? Those are my two questions. Thank you.
All right, so that's two questions, and you cut out there every once in a while when you move the microphone too far out, so you're going to repeat it. So one is, do you think everybody else will go to an exoskeleton kind of design? And then the second one was, what about crash worthiness? What happens when you plow into something? Okay, so every car manufacturer has something that looks kind of like a bumper, but really is an absorber of a tremendous amount of energy. Front and back, I don't think you're going to have too many problems, because when we start to design a car, that's the very first thing that we do, is figure out how crash worthy it's going to be. Not just from the front and the back, but rollover, small offset, which is it's called SORB, and it's it's the biggest issue for designing a vehicle, to make sure that if you hit something with your driver's side, hits a telephone pole right where your wheel is, okay? Well, in the olden days, Bush used to come climbing right through what used to be called the firewall and right into the cab, and you would have a bad afternoon. Those things, now we figured out how we can get rid of that problem, and so there's things called tusks, cutoffs, diverters, all kinds of different tricks to get that out of the way. They're all built into every car, and so from a crashworthiness standpoint, the Cybertruck will have no problem at all, period, in that area. As far as going to exoskeleton, exoskeleton is what I'm doing. We're working with Aptera, it's common knowledge, and the Aptera has an exoskeleton. It isn't made out of stainless steel, it's made out of carbon fiber. And why did I want to have carbon fiber? Because carbon fiber is like a stone. It doesn't change its characteristics at all, and it has no induced stresses. The guys from BMW on the i3, they led the planet in technology with carbon fiber. The tragedy was the car was so bloody ugly, no one would buy it. And that was an internal discussion and an internal decision that was made to try and kill anything that had to do with electrification. Unbelievable, but until you've lived inside of corporate politics, like I was, I never quite made it there, but I was scheduled to become, to go up to the first level of executive at Ford, and I'm telling you what, the stupid chicken shit stuff that they used to talk about would just curl your hair. You couldn't imagine the kind of conversations, and I'm sure that that's what happened over at BMW. So there you go. I think that exoskeletons are going to be coming out, and by the way, most aircraft in the future will be exoskeleton as well.
Okay. We could ask Sandy questions all afternoon, and I'm sure as soon as he gets off the stage, he's going to get people surrounding him and asking all kinds of questions. I know you've got to rush off to Japan tonight, so Sandy can't stick around very long. I think we do have a pen for you to sign the battery, so we'll do that before you go.
Yeah. So I'm good till 3:30, and
Okay.
then I gotta go. I'll
All right.
be rude and run away.
So Sandy's going to be around here. Apologies to, I can't remember who's going next, but apologies to who's going next, because there may be a lot of people wanting to talk to Sandy. Sandy, thank you for your time. Thank you for coming down.
Thank you. Thank you.
And keep making those videos.